And since Dwayne Wade isn't here to defend his honor, I'm here.
No, props out to Dwayne Wade. Magnificent.
No, it's my turn. My turn. No, don't backtrack.
Usually, firings of sports analysts don't exactly make front-page news. Especially when you consider that over the past year or so, there have been many people fired or let go due to pandemic reasons and issues related to that. But recently, ESPN went and fired analyst Paul Pierce, former NBA player and future Hall of Famer, from their staff. That sent out a lot of shockwaves, and many people were wondering what could have drove them to do such a thing. Did he do something wrong? Was this just a basic letting go due to circumstances, or something else entirely? Allow us to show you the real reason why Paul Pierce left ESPN. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. 5. The incident in question. Let's get right into this by asking the question of, what did Paul Pierce do to get fired? Putting it simply, a video of Paul Pierce partying with strippers and alcohol made the rounds on social media over a recent weekend and got a lot of attention. There was a lot of uproar over the NSFW dancing and Pierce smoking either weed or a cigarette, and many wondered what his employer's response would be, given that ESPN is owned by the family-friendly and image-conscious Disney. And they are very big on keeping that image maintained from the top down. Sure enough, they fired Paul Pierce for the video. Michael McCarthy of Front Office Sports reports that ESPN declined to offer further comment. Pierce didn't offer much of a comment of his own either. He did post a video to Twitter that showed him seeming less than bothered by the news. In fact, he said that big things were coming and put the hashtag, "The truth shall set you free," seemingly indicating that things aren't what they appear, even though it does appear to be exactly what they look like. Anyway, it should be noted that the video was on Instagram and on Paul Pierce's personal account, so the argument that the video was taken without his knowledge does not hold water here. Plus, Paul Pierce is married, so him being with strippers who were doing some NSFW dancing doesn't paint a good picture there either. All in all, this isn't a good thing for Paul Pierce in general, because he was seen as a very lovable guy and was a big part of ESPN's NBA coverage, including frequenting their NBA show, The Jump, and now, not so much. 4. How you portray yourself. What this really boils down to, as a whole, is the question of portrayal. You see, we have learned a lot throughout recent history that there are people who will make it so that they look their absolute best in front of a camera, and yet behind the scenes, they're not the best of people at all. You could list names like Matt Lauer, Kevin Spacey, loads of political figures, and so on and so forth, who have gone to great lengths to make it seem like they're just quote-unquote regular people, and yet when you find out what they're really like, it's appalling. Now, to be clear, we're not saying that Paul Pierce is on their level. Dancing with strippers is hardly comparable to some of the things previously named people have done. But the perception or portrayal aspect still holds true here. Paul Pierce is a married man with kids, and then all of a sudden he's on Instagram dancing with strippers? That doesn't seem to match the man who loves basketball and his family, as he claims. Could there be an explanation that makes all of this seem less bad? Sure. And Pierce himself seems to indicate that there might be a hidden truth here. But until he explains it, he's out of ESPN, and if he did have a truth that would soften the blow here, don't you think he would have said it to his bosses to save himself from getting fired? Exactly. 3. The Disney brand. Another thing that this boils down to is that Disney has built a brand that is meant to be family-friendly in all the ways that matter. Yes, they do make plenty of PG-13 properties, such as with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and they can get into adult humor just like anyone else. Look at Pixar films for proof of this. But those are their personal choices that are meant to envelop the properties that they endorse. Take a look at ESPN and you'll see some absolutely over-the-top bits, including their famous "This is Sports Center" commercials that take things way over the top at times just to sell a joke. But it works for them. However, when it comes to their living, breathing TV personalities and actors and staff, they want them on the top of their game, both literally and metaphorically, because Disney knows that if anything bad comes from them, it'll reflect on the brand. A great example of this came with the James Gunn situation a little while back. James Gunn was hired by Disney to make the Guardians of the Galaxy film, a movie based on the lesser-known Marvel comic. The movie was so great that they announced a second movie before the first one was even released, and that one was a major hit too. But as work was being done on Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, James Gunn came under attack. A certain extremist group went onto his Twitter account and found old posts that he made during his shock director days, meaning he did extreme things to get attention, And some of the posts that were revealed to the world once again made it seem like he wasn't a nice guy as he had appeared. Disney fired Gunn despite having support from the entire GOTG cast, and he took his firing with dignity. It was only after fans and more rallied around him and the cast threatened to not make GOTG Volume 3 that Disney hired him on the basis of forgiveness and change. And to be clear, everyone who knows James Gunn notes that he's very different from his early days as a director. But as you can see, this incident and the Paul Pierce incident proves just how much your actions, both past and present, will affect not only how people see you, but how the bigger brands will treat you. 2. Positive views. Let's be honest with ourselves for a bit, shall we? The world we live in right now is not the best it could be by a large margin. Not the least of which is because of people having and saying hateful things toward other genders, races, ages, beliefs, and more. In fact, the inequality and hate in the world is so great that it seems like every week there's a news story about how things are going wrong. It's tiring, it's draining, and many want it to stop more than anything. What does that have to do with Paul Pierce, ESPN, and Disney? Well, in a world that's going slowly mad, or madder in this case, many are doing all they can to maintain a positive look on life as a whole, or at the very least maintain a positive image in the media and public eye. As noted, Disney is a company that values being seen as a beacon of light in the world, despite the fact that they've had plenty of issues over the decades, and they'll do anything to maintain it. But even on a smaller scope, ESPN prides itself as being the #1 place to go for sports coverage. And given that the NBA season is going on right now and slowly heading into playoff territory, the Paul Pierce situation would have been a spotlight event for fans and critics. Yes, an answer to this could have been to go and suspend him until, say, the NBA playoffs arrived so that the situation would blow over potentially. But by doing the firing and making it well known, ESPN and Disney are showing that such acts won't be tolerated. And it sends a message to all who hear it that if they cross certain lines, they will be met with strict and fierce punishment. 1. Learning from mistakes. What happens next with Paul Pierce is a bit of a mystery. On the one hand, he's very rich due to his time in the NBA, and he's already hinting that he's got something lined up, despite being fired from ESPN. So perhaps he will be fine. We know ESPN is fine, as they're still rolling and doing news and sports coverage as if nothing had gone wrong in the first place. But if nothing else, hopefully people will go and be mindful of what Paul Pierce did and make sure that nothing even close to that comes out from them. These are the quote-unquote small mistakes that can ruin lives. And everyone has one of these mistakes of their own, whether they want to admit it or not. The only question is whether they get caught. Paul Pierce got caught, and he paid the price. So what do you think? What do you think of this look at Paul Pierce and the reasons he was fired from ESPN? Can you believe that he made that racy video on Instagram? Are you glad that ESPN let him go for doing that, or do you feel that he should have just been suspended and not fired? How accountable do analysts need to be, in your eyes? What do you think? Let us know in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe, and we'll see you next time on the channel.